Yeah, all right. My name is Lemon, and I make websites. I have been making websites for over 20 years. It's something that I kind of got into a little bit accidentally. I wanted to originally work for rock and roll magazines and do that kind of work. And then as I started to get into the business, I went, oh, the floor is falling away from you people. This is not a sustainable business model. And so sort of taught myself web development as part of that. And I fell in love with the medium. And I still am in love with the medium. And I truly do believe this. This is not just puffery. I do think it's the most interesting publishing platform that's ever been created. You know, you talk about Gutenberg Press or whatever it might be, and like zines were really, really cool, but like the thing that's awesome about websites is that you can just make one. There's no central authority. There's no Yoni Eve looking over you to make sure that your design is cool. There's no, I mean, unless you're in like, a couple of countries I can think of. There's no government that gets to decide whether or not you get to publish that particular thing. You can just make a website. And you can make a website in a weekend, and I love that. So I make websites. Right now, I am making websites for a company called Blank Metal. This is now about month 3 for me at my new company. Blank Metal, our tagline is your new favorite AI engineering partner. So real quick, just want to explain Blank Metal for just a moment. We are a development shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you've never been to Minneapolis, it's great. It's great. It's great. When our government is not actively occupying us and killing us, it's a wonderful city. And we kick them out, so that makes it a really good city. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we're a development agency in Minneapolis, about a little bit over a year old now at this point. An AI first company, actually started from a lot of different agencies, Go-Kart being the primary one. And we do the agency stuff, but we were actually started as an AI first company to apply that model with that sort of velocity. Now that said, we are both an Anthropic and a OpenAI partner. Gold tier, whatever. But let me say one thing right off the bat. This is extremely not an AI talk. This is not an AI talk. You are not going to hear AI things. AI did not have anything to do with these slides. I'm just telling you I work for an AI company. That's all. So I'm a serious professional, and to prove that, here's a GIF of me in my friend's living room in my pajama pants playing Shooty Fruity on the HTC Vive. Vive? I don't know. Yeah, so I'm a serious professional and have been doing sort of like web talks for some time because, again, I still love the platform. But having said that I like websites, and if you go to ahoylemon.xyz, you'll see that I make a lot of them. Let's make a website. Okay, so let's see. Let's make a new website. Here, we just need an idea. All we really need is an idea. I got one. Acceptable fun. You know how there's a whole lot of sites that'll have like fun things that you can do, fun places that you can go, fun things that you can visit, maybe fun cocktails that you can make? That, except for not that fun. Only a tiny little bit fun. Only acceptable fun. So, that'll be like a box of 12,000 gray Legos, maybe a piñata from a dentist, educational video games. Everyone's really familiar with those. If you don't know VeggieTales, it's a CG cartoon series about vegetables who are Christian. Yep, America. You've got the cocktail of the month, which of course is the vodka and water. The acceptable news, of course, it's nice outside. I'm realizing I probably shouldn't be in full screen. There we go. So that's our website. We're gonna make this website. We're gonna probably put it on a CMS. So as you can see, I mean, I'm a front-end developer. I'm a front-end guy, but like, I'm not a designer exactly. So like, this is what I would call a wireframe, pretty much. So let's see. We just need to sort of improve the background. I guess let's start with the background. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to subtle patterns. Can't really see that on the screen, but that's a nice little subtle pattern, and I'll just install that subtle pattern, and that will be the same thing that I've done 100 times. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to bring you a boring, repeating pattern. You've seen that before. You've seen that website before. We don't want to do that. That's boring to me. I want to bring you something much cooler. I want to make you BG2 cool. Because do you remember that at one point in the internet, there was all of the backgrounds were eye-gougingly terrible, that there were like martini glasses and little like Bart Simpson graphics and all that sort of thing? Like that was a thing that was acceptable, and in the same way that you can still write a marquee tag, it still exists, you can do weird backgrounds. Right? So let's do that. Let's do BG2 cool. So this is kind of what we're going to have it look like. I had an acquaintance of mine, Ellen Schofield, sort of give me some really obnoxious patterns that sort of all look like bowling alleys. And then when you click on one of those patterns, there you go. That's what that looks like. We're going to do that. We're going to make the internet look more like that. I'm excited. Okay. So let's go write some HTML. And if none of this is particularly familiar with you, we're doing some semantic HTML. If you want to know more about semantic HTML, this is not that talk, but hit me up. I would love to talk to you about it. We've got our article. We've got our figure. We've got our button. That's shitty, actually. Lemon, I'm just realizing my figure has a background image, but does not have an image. Oh, -1. -1 for me. If you end up reviewing this talk, he did not put an image in the figure. Fail. Anyway, we've got our H2. We've got a site, and we're just going to kind of do that, right? And so that's going to give us our general HTML content, which is fine. As you can see, I kind of like did this in handlebars. So now what we need is we need a way to put the content or stuff inside of the markup or nerd shit. There's a bunch of ways to do this. And that's what we're going to go through today. So there's going to be a bunch of opinions in this talk. And if you're the person that came to this because you have a particular favorite CMS and you are a stalwart of that CMS and you love that CMS, I'm going to hurt your feelings a tiny little bit. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. I don't mean it exactly. But if you are a WordPress stan, don't punch me. Okay, so let's start with WordPress, because if we're making a CMS, I mean, we absolutely have to at least deal with the idea of WordPress. I worked, in development and doing sort of like brochure sites in some cases for a lot of clients, and so like there was always the first conversation. Let's talk about WordPress. Okay, let's talk about WordPress. So we're CMS speed dating. We're just trying to find our match. So I guess let's just pull up WordPress's Tinder profile and see what WordPress has to say.
What's up, players? It's your boy WordPress. WordPress? Everybody loves you. You've got millions of people that rely on you daily. You're so handsome and swole, and you never lose at Fortnite. Here's what I'm looking for in a partner. I'm looking for someone who's willing to accept the bare minimum level of service. I will always be there for you when it fits my schedule. Anyway, that's it for me, baby. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Fist bump for my press bros.
All right, so WordPress there, I mean, really has reason to be confident, because WordPress is popular, has been popular for well over a decade, continues to be popular to this day. How popular? Well, very popular. Very popular, by which I mean if you compare WordPress against the rest of the internet, depending on the way you're categorizing things, if you're taking it against other CMSs, it does even better than this. If you're taking it against, like, your .NET frameworks or whatever, it does a little bit worse. But essentially, depending on the way you measure things, WordPress is somewhere between 43 and 33% of the internet, depending on the way you slice it. That is huge. That is so much of the internet. And that is a market share that we have to be aware of. We have to pay attention to. And that creates some good things and some bad things. So like if we actually look at the market share across CMS use, I mean, the problem with this thing, this is from W3 Techs, and like, I would argue that some of these things to me are not content management systems. I would argue that Shopify is a shopping platform and not necessarily a content management system. Squarespace, yes, okay, cool. We might say that .NET Nuke or DNN now is, I don't even know if it's even around anymore. Concrete 5, I remember that one. But you know, compared to every other CMS, I mean, an absolute gorilla in the room, an absolute market dominator, cannot be denied. However, that market share is not just at a plateau, it's on the other way of the plateau. We've got this data point of when we actually started to launch a CMS, which in my mind changed the economics of what an open source CMS was meant to be. Because at that point you would either sort of do a license fee or whatever it was. They said we're going to have an open source platform and we're going to monetize it other ways, and that made it incredibly popular. There's entire companies who just host WordPress, and some of those sites include the Village Voice. CSS Tricks is still built in WordPress. Chris Coyer sold it eventually, but he talked about, I was a WordPress guy. I would, if I had to do it over again, wouldn't do it again, but I'm not gonna move it away from there. New Yorker, TechCrunch, AMC, I mean, some big old websites are built in WordPress and will continue to be run in WordPress. Some facts about it. We got first released in May 2003. Developed by Matt Mullenweg and a guy that we don't talk about anymore, but Matt Mullenweg, one of the fun facts about him is Matt Mullenweg owns ma.tt. ma.tt, that is a Trinidad and Tobago domain, and that meant that he actually went to Trinidad because they don't sell domains outside of their own people. So he had to like go there, open up a PO box. That was how important ma.tt was to him. It's a continuation of some other stuff, but anyway, it was monetized by Automatic. As you can tell, Matt Mullenweg, he likes his name. But then there's the thing about WordPress and Automatic being two different sort of enterprises. There's WordPress.org, there's WordPress.com. Those are two very different missions, but all have the same general. WordPress.org is supposed to be in the public interest. It is a software platform. It is a plugin repo. It is all the things that is the sort of the thing that we think about when we think about WordPress. Automatic is the company that makes Jetpack. It makes WooCommerce, and it also runs the hosting, basically WordPress as a service of WordPress.com. And both of them are steered by Matt Mullenweg. Now, 2024. Anyone know what I'm going to talk about here? Okay, so in 2024, there's a bunch of sort of WordPress-specific communities, and one of them is called WordCamp, and there's another company called WP Engine. I won't get too much in the details with that, but like WP Engine makes stuff for WordPress, and Matt Mullenweg says WP Engine is a cancer. He's a cancer to open source. Then he demands, WP Engine, you've been using the acronym WP, you don't own that, you've been stealing my intellectual property, I demand 8% of your revenue. Then the next thing was that the actual WordPress.org, which again does all the plugins and stuff like that, they blocked WP Engine. Now, the only thing that really that matters here is that WP Engine made all of the big plugins. They made all the big plugins for WordPress. So they were blocked from releasing plugins. Then there was like some even like pettier stuff where it was like you had to log in and there was a checkbox of like, I hate WP Engine. You had to like check that in order to like log in. So this is something that's still going on. This is a drama that is still unfolding. And in fact, when there was a bunch of employees that said like, hey man, this is a weird holy war that like, I don't think I want to get into. He was like, quit. And they did. So essentially, he offered buyouts, and about 150 people took that buyout. I'm only saying that to say that when you are choosing this platform, this monolith, this very, very big, very, very popular platform, you're choosing some of that as well. And maybe that's fine, because again, there is easy ways to do this. There's one-click WordPress installs, and that's great. But you are choosing that this is part of your pipeline. So anyway, so that's what we're going to do, and we're going to build our website. And like, here's our website. It's, you know, obviously not the prettiest, but that's because I didn't get a theme. And like, I could build a theme, but in order to build a theme, I kind of have to like do some sort of WordPress specific code, or, you know, some hooks and stuff like that. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like doing that. And if I chose WordPress, it's probably because I want it to be easy. So let's do easy. And easy looks like this, right? We're just going to go over to the store, and we're just going to look around, and maybe there's a free one, or maybe there's like someone that looks nice and is like, you know, 25 euro or whatever it is, and we're just going to install that. And after we install that, we'll just like jam in some, you know, sure, that Brooklyn one, that looks all right. And then we're going to like jam in some like plugins, because we want a bunch of plugins. And so like those are nice and cheap, or sometimes they're free, and sometimes there's expensive ones, and the expensive ones are from reputable companies. And that's cool, but we can have plugins that aren't from reputable companies, and those are free. So that's awesome, because then we can just install those plugins onto our website. Now, I've made WordPress plugins, and here's the thing to know about that. I get to write arbitrary PHP, and I get to run it on your server. Yes, you do not give me Rails. If I want to say your Apache server is actually Nginx, I get to say that. Like, I can do anything I want if I am a WordPress plugin. So this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. Now, these are actual screenshots of just sort of stuff in the wild, just like WordPress hack or whatever. You know, and this is a thing that happens. And I'm not saying that I need these things to happen to me, because other things have happened to me. One of them was it was a Palestinian flag, and then it was a revolver, and then it was the Justin Derulo song "Wiggle Wiggle Wiggle." That's what the hack looked like. There was another one that I cannot describe because it was far too pornographic. And there was another one where it turned it into a vape shop. These are just things that happen. Now, if you're on lockdown, then you're in some decent coverage. But like, the popularity is its greatest vulnerability. That whole idea of like, oh, there's no such thing as viruses for Macs. Not true. We've proven that that's not true. Macs have gotten hacked. There is viruses for Macs. It's basically just that, like, for a long time, Office machines were Windows, and so that's what they targeted, because it made more sense to target Windows. And in fact, it made more sense to target Windows NT, because Windows NT sucks, but also because that's where like banks had it and stuff. So the popularity is itself a great surface area, and that creates some issues. So like, if we look at actually infected websites, some from Securi. Infected websites where they do an actual injection, not only is that happening all the time, it's actually not even happening by people anymore. There is stuff that exists in Kali Linux that essentially will troll every website that it can find, and then it'll view source, and then it'll try to sniff out what version of WordPress do you have, what plugins do you have, or whatever. And so it'll just like do a source code, and then it'll go, okay, so now we have an inventory of everything that's on your site. And then as soon as a 0 day happens, they go back to the list and go, okay, there we go, just gonna slap down all of those 0 days. So in short, if you're doing this, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, even though I kind of did say it a couple times, but like, if you're doing this, make sure that you're honestly pay for shit. Like, even if it's 20 euro, like, pay for shit. Because it's kind of the best way that you're going to have something that's sort of trusted and keep those things updated. So let's move on. So now we've got Drupal. So let's pull up Drupal's Tinder profile.
Hey, it's me, Drupal. I probably don't need any introduction, but here's one anyway. I've been in this CMS thing since the year 2000, so I probably worked with their dad. And in addition to that, I've been setting industry standards for years and years. However, due to circumstances that have changed in my life, I'm currently looking for love. And the person I'm after is full of vigor and excitement and the desire to work with an old guy who could teach them cool new tricks. So if that sounds like you, why not hop on board Drupal's Drag Race? Did I say that right, Karen? Yeah? Great, so, just give me a ring and we can drink Red Bull and vodka shots and make blogs about skateboarding and influencing and stuff. All right, bye.
All right. So that's Drupal. A couple things about Drupal. Created by Dries Boetjaert as an actual message board. It wasn't originally a CMS. It was actually created as a message board first, but turned it into a CMS. The popularity actually created Howard Dean. He was a presidential candidate. I won't go into it, but essentially that was where the spike in popularity happened. There is a whole bunch of versions of this. It's very, very, very popular, actually among universities. Universities like this a lot because there's a whole lot of overrides that you can do. So you can have like a monolith, you can have a Drupal monolith, and then you can have overrides so that like the science department looks a little bit different than the, chemistry, well, it's science, but like theology or whatever, they can all look different from each other, and that's one of the things people like. So if you're making a Drupal site, it's probably big, and it's a good choice if it's big, honestly. However, the popularity over time, is what it is. Now, this is really just about there being different players in the game. For those universities or whatever that are on Drupal, that is the right choice probably in a lot of cases for doing that kind of thing, but the actual popularity overall of Drupal is what it is. So we've done that, and here's the old version. This would be 7, maybe 6 or 7. But like the out-of-the-box sort of Drupal behavior isn't super the best, except for the actual back end is nice, because now I can just sort of like create the idea of fields, and then I create the idea of components, and I can kind of build my thing out like pretty easily. So I've got my author, I've got my URL, I've got my date added, I've just got a couple of fields, and I can say like these ones are required or these ones are optional, blah, blah, blah. And then, so cool, and then this is all UI, right? I didn't do PHP to make any of this stuff happen. I just defined a component and then a component what the fields are. And now I've got this. And that means that now I've got this, right? So that's not pretty, but in order to get it to the place that we want it to be, we're actually there. We have all of the HTML that we need. So we can actually get that thing stood up quite fast in this Drupal system. So how does that work? Well, you're always overriding defaults. That's what Drupal is. There's defaults upon defaults upon defaults upon defaults upon defaults. And so you'll have like a template, and then inside of a template, you'll have like a subtemplate, and inside of the subtemplate, you'll have a component, and inside of the component, you'll have subcomponents. And then there's like the idea of like parent themes, and there's the idea of child themes, and then you can even like bang important on that shit. So you can go as deep into it. And this is, again, why the university is like this, because you can customize those different things, and it just like tries to find the most specific thing to use in every case. And then if it doesn't find it, it just goes all the way up the chain to the global default. This means that caching is super fucking important, like really, really important, because it has to do a whole lot of PHP calc, because it has to go. If it's going to render a page, a HTML page, it's probably going to check for a template 100 times. That's not an exaggeration. It's going to be checking for a whole bunch of different twig files to figure out which of these twig files is correct. So caching has, like in Drupal, there's about 12 layers of different caching stuff, which means that when you're working locally, you have to figure out how to turn each one of them off, because then you'll like change something and refresh and go, ooh. So yeah, caching is very, very important. So our potential structure here is we would have like our twig file for actual HTML. Inside of that, we have a page, then we have a region, then we have a block. We've got our top nav. We're just going to like hard code in our top nav. And then we've got a single pattern. And that's got a twig file. And then there's another twig file, there's another twig file, there's another twig file, another twig file. Cool. OK, that makes total sense. So now we've got this thing, right? We've got our article, and then we've got our pattern itself. We've got our fig caption. Well, we just made HTML. And it wouldn't look exactly like this, but it would look pretty close to this. So now we're just doing a whole bunch of different like twig files. Again, you could, because you could actually just do it on a component level, but best practices is to actually like work in those actual field templates. So then we got that. So that's our Drupal. Now let's get a little bit smaller. Let's get a little bit newer. Let's get to Grav. Here we go. There's a joke that happens with Grav that nobody ever likes, and we're going to see if you like it.
Hi, I'm Grav. I'm a modern CMS with a real straightforward attitude and down for something a bit casual without too many commitments or installations. I'm currently on the market for somebody like me. Somebody who isn't bogged down by dependencies or fancy doodads. Somebody who's real down to earth, metaphorically of course, because I don't do long-distance relationships. Another thing about me, I hate clutter. Marie Kondo has nothing on me. I keep my place tidy and promise I won't take up much of your closet space. If you want to know what our first date's going to be like, just look at my tagline. I'm modern, crazy fast, ridiculously easy, and amazingly powerful. I guess that's all I have to say. Let me know if you're ready to take one small step towards love. Off I go.
See, because he's a spaceman, so the audio and the visual are not in sync with. Nobody's ever laughed at that. Okay, fair enough. So some things about Grav. We've got, it was created by Andy Miller, actually forked from Joomla. There was a whole bunch of drama about Joomla and Mambo. We don't need to go into any of that. Anyway, one of the Joomla guys created Grav. It is flat file, and the reason why I'm using this example is the biggest flat file thing. So there's no SQL involved in any of this. So this means that your actual content of your web page is stored in YAML files or text files. But essentially, if you are not somebody that understands SQL very well, then you can just sort of like look in your content directories and you can actually find it. So you can like open up VS Code, do Control F in your code base, and you will be able to find all of your content that's actually inside of there. So Grav is actually probably the most popular flat file CMS. There's some argument that Statamic is a little bit more popular, but here's what popular looks like. Yeah, 0.17% of internet market share. So this is what being the most popular flat file CMS is. But anyway, so we did this, and now we've got this set up for BG2Cool, right? And we've got a backend that I think was a little dated, but not bad, like pretty good. And then as far as actually writing some code, it actually gets kind of easy, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually build out our control panel in a YAML file, right? So essentially, it's like you're writing TypeScript or JSON or whatever it might be. And so you're actually just defining, I've got a pattern and it's a file and it's going to go in here. I've got my name, which is text. I've got this other thing as a URL. And we're just going to write that in to our YAML. And by doing that, now we've actually got this. This came out of that YAML file where it parses that thing out. And now I've got stuff that's like some of it's required, some of it's not. It all validates. It all looks pretty okay. And then we're actually going to do this. So by taking this, and the moment I hit save, I end up with this. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that this means that you can do everything in GitHub, right? Because you're going to have like a /content folder. And so all of this is just going to be a text file that just gets saved somewhere, right? So you can go through and just save that, version it, whatever you might do. So now we're going to do our template to a twig file. I mean, again, we're not going to go back into this, but essentially you're just pulling out these values from our Grav. But like, I actually want to say, and especially in Germany, boy, I love Kirby. I still love Kirby. Kirby is basically a CMS made by a guy named Sebastian. I think it's great. The reason why I talked about Grav instead is that it's got this sort of like templating system inside of it. So you've got like the idea of sort of like plugins and front ends and stuff like that. This one's a little bit more pared down, but by being pared down, it's fucking fast. Like it's so fast to actually just like create a YAML file and then start writing out some PHP. And then all of a sudden you've got a website. But either way, we've written some YAML, we've written some Twig. And if you don't like PHP, no problem. Nope, wrong one. Wrong ghost. That's not what I meant. Yeah, that's the one I meant. That's the one I meant. Okay,
so hi. I'm Ghost. I'm a blogging platform. And what I'm really looking for is someone who understands, especially me. For example, like I haven't done my nails yet. It's just so hard to choose. Like, what do I pick? So, in terms of like how things work, I have got like 1 million NPM dependencies to get to today. You know, I don't think I like that one. It doesn't really reflect the who you are, which is what really you want to do with your nail polish. Oh, I gotta go. Right. I hate July.
Yeah, so that's Ghost. Ghost is a node-based blogging platform. It no longer calls itself a blogging platform. It now calls itself an audience generation system. It's blogging. It's still blogging. But essentially, you've got a admin that's written in Ember. You've got the front end, which uses handlebars. Front end is very, very simple. It was originally kickstarted with this goal and got lots more. So when you're doing this, like you can do, okay. When I point at these things, right, and you can say like, you know, Troy Hunt and DigitalOcean and DuckDuckGo, like some big companies. This is their blog. Ghost is a blogging platform. Anyway, so lots of places use Ghost as a blogging platform, but like, how does that work? NPM install, blah, right? And then we just got like some local development. And now that we've got our local development and we've got something that looks kind of nice, now we actually need to throw it up on the internet. Now, in a LAMP system, that's looking different than like an NPM system. So, actually, does that look like... Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this one came first. And boy, Medium went, oh, we're going to take your lunch money. And kind of did until Substack took theirs. But anyway, so the only thing that you have is that if you're doing a Ghost blog rather than a Medium blog, you do not get this thing, which is a kind of a way that I just don't end up reading your blog when I get those like Medium pop-ups. Because like I have a login, but anyway. Quick moment on pricing. So like this is what you can do with Ghost as an actual platform. So we've got like our, it's limited under like view counts, and you know, that's not terrible. That's okay pricing. But you know, you can spin it up yourself. And that's what a DigitalOcean like droplets cost is going to look like. Honestly, this stuff makes my head hurt. I mean, if you like this stuff, then that's awesome. The fact that there's companies that exist whose only purpose in life is to tell you what your Amazon bill means that this is out of control. So I personally like the sort of like, what is it? It's $9 a month? Great, we're going to do that. So anyway, we got to get this thing hosted. What if all this seems too complicated? What if we actually want to go static? Boy, there's a bunch of ways to do that. We can actually use Jekyll.
Hi,
let's meet Jekyll.
My friends call me Jekyll. I've been hurt before. My last boyfriend left me for some chick named Gatsby.
I'm not like most girls. I'm super low maintenance, I'm super low drama. You will never wait on me to do my hair and makeup because I'm just low maintenance and ready to go. I'm not like those girls that put on their high heels. What you see is what you get with me. I am who I am. No tricks, no weird drama. I'm super chill, and I'm looking for a guy to be super chill with me.
Wadela loves The Bachelor. So Jekyll, a couple thoughts about this. It is a static site generator. It's written in Ruby. Their slogan for quite a while was Jekyll does what it tells you to do. First released in 2008, and it was, for a very long time, the most popular static site generator was, and has now been replaced by Eleventy and Astro. You might have noticed a joke that Webinale was making just a moment ago about people moving from Jekyll to Gatsby. That wasn't a good choice. Whoops. So one of the things about Jekyll specifically is that it is Ruby based, and so people sort of moved away from it for that specific reason, because maybe they don't like Ruby or they don't just know Ruby. It doesn't really matter, but I think that's a lot of what Eleventy's success was from, because essentially you have a page builder, and who cares what that technology is made with. But anyway, so who uses Jekyll? Well, Sketch, Twitch, Spotify, Mapbox, Ionic, the CSS reference on Mozilla, yes, Yeoman, Auth0, a bunch of companies, as well as, most importantly, GitHub. The 100% of the reason for Jekyll's success was that Jekyll was written by name not found, but name not found was one of the founders of GitHub. And so before they did GitHub Actions, because GitHub Actions are only, I think, a couple years old. I mean, there was the choose your own GitHub Actions aren't that old. And so essentially, this was the first GitHub action that you could build a Jekyll site, and it just would take in your entire manifest, and then when you push to GitHub, it would go, I know what that is, that's a Jekyll site, and it would build it. So if you had hundreds of pages that cross-linked, it would do that at build time, and it still does do that. So the popularity of Jekyll is measured in GitHub stars, because that's the only metric that's ever mattered. That is a chart that's going this way, but like, if any of you are data analysts, you might go, that chart's fucked up, Lemon. Yeah, it is. I don't know. There was not. I couldn't find data there. So, but GitHub stars are one thing. But anyway, what do? We gotta get Ruby on our machine. Then we do a gem install. We do Jekyll new. We bundle the exec, and then we serve it, and then we look at it, and we never actually have to do a build step if we don't want to, because GitHub will do it for us. Asterisk, but we should, to make sure that's not fucking weird. And then we've got this, right? So now what do? Well, we actually have something that is familiar to us from doing the Grav and the Kirby stuff, which is that we've actually got a markdown file. So we have the idea of our HTML that has liquid, I think is it liquid? I can't remember the name that they use, but essentially they have like a variable injection system. And so you've got this markdown file, and then you've got a home.html, which is essentially you save it as an HTML, but then you just do these handlebars for any of your variables. And it does some validity to it. You can even do a lot of like if conditionals. You can do these like fors. You can do a lot of stuff that looks familiar. You can even make sure that like it doesn't try to do an image source with an image that doesn't exist. All of that kind of thing. And there we go. So there's our page that we did because we just had some markdown and we just built it, and it looks fine. And the thing is that it is fast, because whatever we're doing, as long as we can actually get ourselves to HTML faster, that's the fastest that we can get. But this is not for people who are afraid of code, because if you're going to enter this in, there are backends you can use, but like that's a hat on a hat, really. So if we need to do one more, we're going to do one more, and that one more is cockpit.
Hello all of you fine people out there. You might not have heard of me, but I'm no slick sleeve. I'm the new wing king out there using my blowers to spit out all of these other suitors at the speed of sound since 2013, baby. I might not have as many flights on my belt as some of these other old geese, but I've got a good stick and I'm ready to move right in, anywhere, anytime. Even if your love life is static, I'm gonna make it dynamic with this robust back end. If you've had a bad time in the past with ham-fisted punks, I can slip right in and make it all right. We don't even need to be in the same room for me to show you a great time. Just slip me your address and I'll be there. Don't let the shortcoming of dirtbag airmen keep you from the dating scene. Not before pulling chocks and trying this zipper-suited sun god out.
Yeah. What the hell is Cockpit? Cockpit is a headless CMS. There's another headless CMS that this man would like to sell you. Or, somebody that he works with would. But it was created by basically a German developer at a digital agency, really to serve his own needs, and then just open sourced it. So we have an MIT licensed PHP based headless CMS. And if you've never worked with headless, essentially what you have is you've got your thing over here, and then you have things, maybe plural, over here, and they just talk to each other. So it means it's language agnostic. It means that we can import content with Ajax, Node, Ruby, PHP, curl. The list goes on. There's probably Microsoft-y kind of things that are poorly named because that company can't name anything right. But we can actually feed, for example, iOS app with a headless. We can feed a kiosk with a headless. We can feed anything that just has a connection that can take usually JSON. So we've got our login here, and that's going to give us just sort of the idea of data. And then, just like we did with, for example, Drupal, we're going to just sort of throw together, here's my fields, and here's what I want my fields to look like. We do that in the UI itself. And then after doing that, now we've got this idea of entering in the content, right? I'm going to be going over 5 minutes over. We're lunch after this, so it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. But if you run away, you won't hurt my feelings. But I'm going to tell you, I'm probably going to run 5 minutes over. I'm sorry. We're going to get there. All right. So anyway, so we got our little JavaScript here. We got to obviously get a token because we don't want to just let everyone rob our API key or especially push to our API key. And then we're going to get our JSON result, right? So we've got our files and some sort of metadata on those files. And that means I want to use Vue. If you like other languages, great. That's awesome. That's awesome. Svelte is super duper cool. Vanilla JavaScript is really, really cool. React exists too, but I use Vue. Anyway, so we've got some Vue here, and we've got source of order article, and it looks kind of the same as our handlebars, except for now we've got the idea of a v-if, and we've got a v-else, and then we've got an @click, which is just sort of Vue conventions. But I think you can kind of imagine what that sort of stuff looks like, right? And that means we've made a single-page application. That means that we can serve this on GitHub pages. We can serve this kind of wherever we want. We could make this an actual iOS app. I don't want to, but we could do that because we have a headless server that exists somewhere in the world, and then we have our content absorber that's just allowed to absorb this content. So I actually did this not that long ago. If you go to booze.bar, I basically made myself a home inventory for my bar. I have a bar upstairs. I've got, I don't know, 60 or 70 bottles or whatever, and I just kind of wanted to, I was looking around and I saw other software, and I was like, this stinks, and I could do it better. And I feel like I did. Anyway, it's just if you want to see what my bar looks like, if you want to come to Minneapolis and you want to know what to drink, I just bought a bottle of, what is it called? Riga Black. Riga Black. There's a third word. Anyway, it's good. If you want to come over, this is what I have in my inventory. And that is all served headless into a static, it's a static view site. There's other ones. You've got Strappy. You've got Directus. You've got Sanity. Is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything I'm missing from that list? What? Payload CMS. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. I guess that's it. Anyway, so if that blew your mind, then you might be wondering, which is right for me? All of them, maybe. You can decide that. And actually, let me say that, when I actually did this, I realized that I didn't really want to edit this that much, and I just built it static. So if you go to, that's not the right thing. There's the right thing. So I actually built this for real, and this was an idea of I want to make these disgusting patterns, and you can just take this and you can go I want my headline to look like this, or I want my border to look like this. I want to make it real crazy, and then it just gives you the actual CSS to change, and you can either use that on your own site or just pull it in dynamically with a, if you want to ruin somebody else's site, You can just use it as a Chrome extension. But anyway, thanks to our cast. That's Kelly Seeley's, J.W. Friedman, Boots Raingear, Bump Girl, Jennifer Wadela, and Sanguinary Novel playing the roles of our CMS. And hit me up. That's me on pretty much everything. Obviously, there's a social media platform that doesn't exist anymore because of some guy. But I still am on Blue Sky every once in a while. Sessionize, I do a lot of stuff on GitHub. And as far as my website's right there, find me, I'm around. Also, right after lunch, I'm doing right back here. So if you want to come and listen to me talk about CSS, I'm right back here. But that's it for me. And as far as stickers, I've got these nice, very shiny lemon stickers. I have these stickers that say, I like stuff that's kind of fun. I've got these stickers that say, maybe you don't need all that JavaScript. And then I've got these special ones that will certify you as sane, but only if you are certified. Did you ever get yourself certified as sane? Fuck yeah. Congratulations. What percentage sane are you? What percentage sane are you? 59. 59% sane. That's congratulations. Yeah, if you want to talk to me or grab some stickers or whatever you like, yeah, see you soon. Enjoy your lunch.